Well, in today's lesson, we're going to look at fractions, decimals and percentages and how to work out percentages of an amount without using a calculator. On the next slide, we have a little starter to recap what we know about percentages and how to work out a fraction of an amount and to convert between fractions and percentages and decimals. So here's our starter. You can pause the video and have a go at answering the questions, and then check in a couple of minutes to see whether or not you've got them right. So here are the answers, and hopefully you'll have got them all right. If not, you can pause the video and have another go. Just as a quick reminder, 3/5, you want to change the denominator so it's over 10 or 100. So 3/5, 6/10, 60 over 100, 60%. 25% as a decimal, percent means out of 100, so 25 over 100, or divide by 100, 0.25. 35% as a fraction, you would do 35 over 100 and then simplify to give you 7/20. To change a decimal into a percentage, you just multiply it by 100%. So 0.04 multiplied by 100 would give you 4%. 3/5 of 125, you would divide by 5 and then multiply your answer by 3 to give you 75. So on this slide, we have a quick recap on what percent means. So 1%, a percent means out of 100. So 1% here means 1 out of 100, or as a decimal, 100th is 0.01, and to work out 1% of an amount, you divide by 100. To work out 10%, 10% is, as a fraction, would be 1/10, so to work out 1/10 of something, you would divide by 10. 25%, that is a percentage that you will recognise and will probably know anyway. The 25% is a quarter. So to work out a quarter of something, we divide by 4. 50% is a half. So to work out a half of something, you would just divide it by 2. And 75% is 3/4. So to work out 3/4 of an amount, you would divide by 4 and then multiply by 3. In the first example, we've been asked to work out 15% of £60, and we're to do it without a calculator. So, without a calculator, 15%, if I want 15% of £60, I can quite easily work out what 10% is. So 10% we would divide by 10, which would give us 60 divided by 10, which is £6. 5% is half of 10%, so that would give us £3. And if we add those together, we can therefore say that 15% equals £9. So therefore, without a calculator, 15% of £60 is £9. And that would be what I would expect to see. So this is what I would expect to see in your exercise book when you're complete as working out in your exercise book. In the second example, we've been asked to work out 21% of £125. So 10%, to work out 10%, I would divide £125 by 10, which would give me £12.50. So therefore 20% is going to be 2 times that. So 20% is going to be 2 times £12.50, which is £25. And to work out 1%, we would divide £125 by 100. So that would be £1.25. So therefore 21% of £125 is going to be £25 plus £1.25, which will give us £26.25. In the first example on this page, we want 5% of 41 kilograms. So I know that 10% of 41 kilograms I would divide by 10 to give me 4.1 kilograms, and therefore 5% is going to be half of that. It's going to be 4.1 kilograms divided by 2, which is going to be 2.05 kilograms. In the second example, we want 2.5% of 82. Now, if I know what 10% is, 10% of £82 is going to be £8.20. 5% is going to be half of that, so £4.10, and 2.5% is half of 5%, so 2.5% is going to be £4.10 divided by 2. So that will give me £2.05. So therefore 2.5% of £82 is £2.05. Now on this slide we want to work out 220% of £2,000. Now this means, because we want 220%, it means that what we end up with is going to be more than what we've started off with. There's going to be an increase. So if you imagine 100% is the amount that we start off with, okay? So I know that 100% is £2,000. That means that 200% is going to be double that. So that'll give me £4,000. Now 10% of something, we just divide by 10. So 10% of 2,000 is going to be 200. But we want 20%, so 20% will be double that amount. So it'll be 400. Therefore, 220% of £2,000 is going to be 4,000. Just a minute. So that'll give me £4,000 for the 200%, plus the 20%, so plus £400. So your overall answer is going to be 4,400. So in all these questions without a calculator, you're looking at the percentage you want. So for example, if you wanted 9%, you could work out 10%, 1%, and then subtract it. So it's looking at your number work and looking at the percentages and finding, there are more than one method of doing it, but finding one that's easy and works for you. Now on this slide I'm going to go through a few random questions from the textbook. So I'm looking at exercise 11C on page 234. So if I just take out, let's choose question 1B. Question 1B has asked us to work out 11% of £40. Well, I know 11% is made up of 10% and 1%. So 10% I know that we just divide by 10. So 10% of 40, divide that by 10, is going to be £4. 1% we would divide by 100, so 40 divided by 100, move the decimal point 2 places, would give me 40p, or if you like 0.40 pounds, we'll work in pounds. Therefore 11% is going to be £4.40. So that was question 1B. Now, if I look at 19% of £400, so if we look at 2B, question 2B wants us to work out 19% of £400. Well, 19, I can get to 19 from 20% and then minus 1%. So 10% of 400, I'm just going to divide by 10, so that'll give me £40. And 20% is going to be double that, so 20% will be £80. If I want to work out 1%, I will divide by 100, so that will give me £4. Therefore 19% is going to be 20% minus 1%, so that will give me £80 minus £4, which is £76. Now jumping over now to question 8C. 8C says work out 12.5% of 72 grams. Okay, so if looking at that number, I can see that 12.5% is actually half of 25%. So if I work out what 25% of, always keep on doing that, 25% of 72 grams is, 25% here is the same as a quarter. So I can say, okay, well, 72 divided by 4, 4 into 7 goes once, remainder 3. 4 into 32 goes 8 times. So 1/4 of 72 grams is going to be 18 grams. Therefore, 12.5% of 72 grams is going to be half of 18 grams. So it's going to be 18 grams divided by 2, which is 9 grams. So it's a case of looking at your percentages, looking at your numbers, and just practice. And this is what I expect to see with regards working out. Remember, it's not how quickly you complete a task, it's practicing. What I'm trying to get you to do is practice your working out, because later on, further down the school, you're going to have to show your working out, because this is where you will lose marks if you don't. So it's really important to get into good habits now. Now you can pause this slide, and I would like you to work through the questions in exercise 11C on page 234. So once you've done those, the next slide has got the answers, and you can pause, you can mark your work. And what I would like you to do is send me the photographs of your answers with working out, please, as specified on Insight. So you need to check Insight for the questions that I want you to send photos of. So pause the slide, pause the PowerPoint or video, and do exercise 11C, and then check your answers once you've done so. So here are your answers. If you mark your work, if you've got anything wrong, just try and correct them in a different colour in your exercise book before moving on to the next slide. Now the next slide will be your work, your second lot of work for this week. On this slide and this exercise now, we're going to look at how to work out percentages of amount using a calculator. So the first question here, we've been asked to work out 42% of 458. Now the first thing you do is write out the question. So you would write out, well, 42% of £458. Of in maths means times, and 42%, to change that to a decimal, as it says here, you would just divide by 100. So 42 divided by 100 is 0.42. So that line we would just write as is the same as 0.42 times 458, which we can put in our calculator to give us £192.36. You must remember your units. You don't necessarily need it in your workout, although in this it does make it clear, but you must keep your units in your final answer. You may like to pause the video now and have a go at answering this question. Well, if we're answering this, 7% of 56 kilograms, we would write out 7% of 56. We would change our percentage here into a decimal by dividing by 100. So 7 divided by 100 would give us 0.07 of, in maths means times, and 56 kilograms. And using your calculator, we would write 0.07 multiplied by 56. That would give us 3.92 kilograms. Don't forget your units. Now, just because the question says use a calculator, that doesn't mean you don't show your working out. You have to make sure that you write out, so whatever you're putting into your calculator, just write it down. Okay, it is really important. Well, on this slide we've been asked to work out 17.5% of 12,345 metres. So we write out the question. We want 17.5% of 12,345 metres. Well, percent, to change our percentage into a decimal, we're just going to divide it by 100. So 17.5% divided by 100 will give us 0.175. So on my next line of working out, I would say, okay, 0.175 of, here in maths means times, 12,345 metres. And putting that working out, that calculation into your calculator, 0.175 multiplied by 12,345 metres will give 2,160.375 metres. Now, it hasn't specified the accuracy of your answer, so you could do it to 1 or 2 decimal places. So 2 decimal places would round it, would give us, if we were to convert it, would give us whole centimetres. So that would be 2,160.38 metres. Now, if you're happy with all of this, I've written here, I want you all now to try questions, or to do questions 1 to 8 from exercise 11D on page 237, showing your working out. So just writing your answer only is not satisfactory. I want to see your working out like I've done. So question, convert your percentage to a decimal and multiply. Next line should be your working out. It should be your final answer. So question 1 to 8 I would like you all to do. For those of you who feel confident, you may like to work on and have a go at questions 9 to 12. But don't worry if you can't do them. They're not compulsory. They're there as an extension or as extra if you want to do them. If you pause the video now and do the questions, and then the next slide we have got the answers. And on Insight I will specify which questions I would like you to get photographs of so that you can upload them onto Insight so I can see what you're doing. Thank you. Well done. I'm sure you'll be fine. Any questions, just ask.